Whipple Family Misadventures, Book 7, Mischief in Their Eyes, Chapter 4. As soon as Wade got out of the shower and was dressed, he went to wake the boys up. They were curled up in tiny lumps under the hotel blanket. From what he could tell, the two of them had slept well, which was good since they were in a new place.
Come on, you guys gotta get up.
Almost immediately, Shadow sat up, blinking tiredly in the dim light, but Silver pulled the pillow over his head.
Silver.
It's too early.
The gray hedgehog tried pulling the pillow over his entire body.
I don't want to get up before the sun.
Wade sat on the edge of the bed.
You and me both, kiddo. I know you don't want to, but you have to. And then get your shoes on. You're both going to be in Tom's hotel room today, and I need you to be quieter. You're going to wake up other people.
Two gold eyes peered out at him.
What other people?
The other people who are in this hotel and don't want to hear you at 6:30 in the morning while they're trying to sleep.
Turning to face him, Shadow looked confused. Either that or he was still half asleep. There was a strong chance of either.
Why are we going over to Tom's room? What's wrong with ours?
Don't you guys want to hang out with Sonic today?
Wade asked and then glanced back towards Silver.
You can go back to sleep in 10 minutes, but now I need you to get up. Right now, please. I'm not asking again.
Grumbling, the gray hedgehog finally emerged. They had both slept in their hoodies to make sure that neither shed their quills onto the hotel bed or poked Wade in the middle of the night. Even though Wade had trimmed both the sleeves, they still looked utterly adorable, both sleepy-eyed in those massive, oversized hoodies. The third hoodie had been put on Silver's plush and only contributed to the cuteness factor. One of the problems with leaving them in the hotel rooms was the housekeeping service and the fact that since hotels have been gaining a reputation for where shady stuff could go down, it meant that they couldn't hang the Do Not Disturb sign for 4 straight days and get away with it. The hotel had a policy where after 2 days they would have to at least check inside the rooms to ensure nothing illegal was happening. In the end, it was decided he and Tom would switch off where the boys would be for the days.
What about breakfast?
Shadow asked, reaching for his shoes. Wade stood up, thought about trying to get at least Shadow to brush his ruffled quills and fur, and then decided against it, especially if they're just gonna go back to sleep in a few minutes.
In Tom's room. And Silver, don't forget your water bottle.
5 minutes later, he was carrying the two of them down the hallway. It was early, so there was no one else up at this hour. They had their hoodies on. No one would even know. Besides, Wade liked being able to carry his kids around, especially right now when they are both half asleep. Using his foot, he knocked on Tom's door. The other man opened it a few seconds later and smiled at them, also already dressed in his uniform.
Hi guys.
After Wade sent them down, Silver went right to the lounge chair that was tucked into the corner, climbed up on it, kicked off his shoes, and curled into a partial ball, still holding onto his plush. Sonic was sitting up in bed, and Shadow hopped up next to him.
Okay, we're going to be leaving now. There's plenty of food and things for you guys to do in here. All 3 of you do not leave this room for any reason.
What if there's an emergency?
It better be one serious of an emergency.
Looking around the room, Wade picked up the iron that came from the room and tucked it high away from out of their reach. After a few months with his new sons, he was getting better at anticipating what they might innocently want to try out.
Don't play with this, or the phone. In fact, only use the phone if you need to call us and it's important.
Tom nodded.
I wrote down my cell phone number and yours and put them both next to the phone, but that's it. No prank calling or anything. I won't bring you guys lunch in a few hours, but for now.
He pulled a DVD set out of his bag and handed it to Sonic. The blue hedgehog's eyes got wide.
Batman the Animated Series?
Yeah?
Wade watched as Tom turned it on for them to watch and handed the blue hedgehog the remote.
You guys be good. We'll see you in a few hours.
It was so stressful putting up the Do Not Disturb sign and walking out of that hotel room, knowing the three of them were being left alone for hours unsupervised in a strange place where they could not be discovered.
You think they'll be okay?
Wade asked, only because he needed to hear it from someone else. Tom didn't answer for a moment, just pushed the button for the elevator.
We'll find out.
To both their surprise and relief, the first day of training happened to be at the hotel in the conference room. Since the state was paying for everyone to stay here, they also decided that the massive set of death by PowerPoints could also take place here. At least it meant today they would be able to check on the boys as often as possible, but only for one day. First picking up a cup of coffee and then some fruit and a breakfast bar, Wade glanced around the room as other officers filed in and tried to switch his mindset from home life and being a dad over to work life, but found it difficult. He was going to worry about the boys the entire 4 days they were here. Spotting someone that he had gone to the police academy with, Wade went over to greet him.
This show is great, but this is boring just sitting here.
Shadow kept his eyes on the TV, even though he silently agreed with his brother. Apparently, he could handle being bored a lot better than the two of them could. Sonic would suddenly start zipping around the room at high speed, so fast it looked like there were 5 of him, and Silver kept randomly switching positions, sitting laying on his belly, rolling over on his back. Neither of them would have handled being on the ark very well.
Then let's do something else. Mike, what?
The blue hedgehog thought for a moment.
I don't know.
Shadow poked a few buttons on the remote until the TV show paused.
How about comics?
And go from watching Batman to reading about him? Something else.
The blue hedgehog cast a longing glance towards the door.
I wish we could go outside. I want to go for a run. It's sunny out and not even raining.
But we can't.
I know. I'd want to see what plants are around here, if they're the same as the ones back at home or not. I heard different places have different kinds.
Shadow rolled his eyes.
We're not that far away from home that it would change. Even when I walked from the ocean, all the plants stayed mostly the same.
Sonic blinked.
The ocean?
Yeah, I came from the ocean and then walked to Green Hills.
Shadow said in a serious tone, so the blue hedgehog knew he wasn't joking.
It took a long time.
That statement made Sonic shudder.
I've done that route, except I ran it and it was over really fast, but the ocean? Ugh. Whoa!
Shadow glanced over and saw Silver hovering in front of one of the windows, his hands pressed against the glass.
Guys, come look at this!
He and Sonic trotted over, except neither of them were tall enough to look out and they didn't have the same powers as Silver. So first he had to wait until Sonic dragged the chair from the desk over and the two of them balanced on it together.
What? Down there! Look at all that water!
Below them, there was a courtyard with a fence around a small body of water.
So?
Silver pressed his nose against the glass.
Look at how much water is down there! What's it for? Do people drink that? Where do you think they get all of it from? That's so much! Where do you think it came from and how did they get it in there? Did people carry it?
Sonic scoffed and clicked his tongue as he hopped off the chair.
It's not for drinking. They swim in it. Ugh. You guys don't like swimming, do you? It's fine if you do. I don't care at all. I was just wondering.
Shadow glanced at his brother before he looked back at Sonic.
Is that where you flop around in the water?
Basically, yes.
The darker hedgehog shook his head and also jumped down.
I've never done that. That's the most water I've ever seen.
Silver said, lowering himself back down to the carpet.
There's way more in the ocean. It's really big. Bigger than the whole town of Green Hills, and it's all water, but you can't drink it.
Sonic nodded multiple times.
It's salt water. It stings. Don't ask how I know. Wow, there's so much water here. But now, we're back to the same original problem.
He flopped over backwards onto the bed and then suddenly sat up again, almost immediately.
Oh wait, I have an idea. We're teaching Shadow about stuff. We can keep doing that here.
Shadow felt his stomach clench, as the last time they did that, he had a bruised head and a headache for a few hours.
Like what?
The blue hedgehog considered deeply for a few moments as he and Silver stared at him.
What powers do you have? I've never seen you do anything.
Because I have no powers.
Really?
Well, I am kinda strong.
The Duggar Hedgehog reached over and smoothly lifted Sonic above his head with both hands.
Cool. But could you please put me down?
As soon as his socked feet were back on the carpeted floor, Sonic started getting excited.
Let's work on that. Pick up the bed next.
Shadow's shoulders sank as he gave the massive bed a considering look.
I don't think that's a good idea, especially if I drop it on myself.
Bouncing on the balls of his feet, Silver offered an eager smile.
I can catch it for you.
You mean like how you caught me from plowing into a tree?
Okay, no bad. Can you do anything else?
Clenching his jaw, Shadow swallowed as only Wade knew what he was about to say.
I did one time do something. I was really upset about something and this red energy gathered around me and I knocked a chair into a wall and broke it.
He decided to leave out the part about also knocking Wade over.
Really?
That made Silver stop.
Is that why there's only 3 chairs at the table at home now?
Shadow nodded meekly.
That's so awesome. We can work on that.
Crossing his arms, Shadow half turned away so he was looking at the frozen image of Batman still on the TV screen.
That's the thing. I don't know how I did it, and I've tried again, but I can't get it.
Throwing himself into the air so it looked like he was lying on an invisible couch, Silver considered that, rolling over so he was on his belly, propped up by his elbows.
How did you do it the first time?
I was really upset. Almost panicked. It just happened.
Sonic's green eyes sparkled.
Then for you to do it again, we have to recreate it.
10 minutes later, Shadow was deeply regretting he had told them anything. After a brief conversation in which it was sadly decided that they couldn't force him into a crowded store, which he didn't even want to think about doing, Sonic remembered something from the day before and emptied Tom's suitcase onto the bed.
Okay,
Sonic said, shoving Tom's clothes onto the floor.
we zip you up into this and then work you into a nice panic until you figure out how to unlock your powers.
The Duggar Hedgehog stared at it in dismay.
I don't think this could.
You already tried everything else. Besides, don't you want to be able to use powers like we do?
They were right. As much as he didn't want to admit it, even though he would hate it with every fiber of his being, Shadow very slowly climbed up onto the bed and laid down inside the suitcase. It was big enough that he could fully stretch out his limbs, even if they closed it. Sonic had noticed that as well and spent a moment tugging a blanket free and tossing it over him, then started to work the zipper.
Hey,
All part of the process. How do you feel?
Sonic said as he finished zipping up the case, enclosed in a tiny space that he couldn't get out of without destroying his way out. Shadow started to feel sparks of panic and fear ripple through him. The blanket was too hot and heavy. There wasn't enough air in there. He couldn't see what was happening outside.
not good.
Use your powers then.
Shadow struggled, starting to flail wildly. He had to get out. He had to figure out how to use his powers. This had to make something happen. But first, get out of this tiny space away from being suffocated by a heavy blanket that was too much and took away precious space that he needed. He couldn't stay there.
Get out. Get out. Get out.
And then suddenly he was. One moment, Shadow was kicking wildly inside the suitcase, making it shudder violently, and then, out of nowhere, he stopped. Silver blinked, confused, and reached for the zipper.
Shadow?
After he figured out how it worked, he unzipped it, only to find the suitcase was empty. His brother and the blanket had disappeared.
He's gone.
Next to him, Sonic just looked deeply impressed.
Whoa.
Ignoring his friend, Silver wildly looked around the room, hoping Shadow would pop out any second, amused at their shocked expression. But he didn't.
We have to go find him before someone else does. Wait, you want to leave?
Sonic went so fast he became a blur, reappearing right in front of the door.
I don't want to, but we have to. We have to find him or let my dad know what happened. Shadow went somewhere. My dad said we're supposed to take care of each other because we're brothers. I have to help him. What if something bad happened to him?
The blue hedgehog's eyes lit up.
Oh, good. I just didn't want to be the one that dragged you out. Come on.
He reached for the door handle.
Hold on.
He knew they couldn't be spotted. Silver reached for Shadow's black hoodie his brother had taken it off earlier and offered it to Sonic.
Put this on.
He raised the hood of his own and removed the third one from his plush toy.
Shadow said it hides quills really well. If we're careful, even if people see us, they won't notice we're not human.
Great idea.
Sonic opened the heavy door and the two of them slipped out into the long hallway. It was so much different from their house back at home. It smelled weird and like cleaners.
That's a cool plant.
Silver said, not being able to help admiring the potted plant that sat across from the door of Tom's hotel room. He longed to reach out and touch its leaves, figure out what kind it was, and if he could get one like that for when they went home.
Come on, Silver, you can look at the plants later.
Together they crept down the hallway. So far, there were no humans around, even though they both could hear some inside the rooms. Some sounds were normal, while others were strange and unnatural. Silver paused at the end of the hallway, looking at the two big metal doors.
What's this?
The elevator.
He said that made no sense, but he didn't elaborate. He motioned for Silver to follow him.
There's stairs over here.
The stairs turned out to be more than Silver had ever seen in his life. It wasn't too bad going down them all, but he couldn't imagine having to go up so many. It looked exhausting. They were near the bottom when they could hear voices and smell amazing things. There was a big, gray, round plastic thing that kind of looked like a trash can, except it was a lot bigger. Hovering above it, Silver peered in.
Whoa, look at all this food someone threw away.
Silver, humans can't do that.
But I can't reach it without that.
They'll know right away you're not human.
Fine.
Disappointment flooded him. Silver dropped back to the ground. It wasn't fair. Humans were so picky and threw away so much good food sometimes, and then got weird when he was more than happy to help himself. A new voice suddenly cut in.
That's mine.
Both hedgehogs jumped, whirling around to see Shadow standing behind them, still holding the blanket.
Shadow, how did you?
You guys are not being quiet. What are you doing here?
We came looking for you. I was worried. What happened? Where did you go?
I don't know. I was in the suitcase and then suddenly I wasn't. I was in some other room. Thankfully no one else was there. It was really weird. I came out here to the stairs and then I heard you guys.
You have powers?
Maybe.
He grabbed the third hoodie from Silver, gave it a quick disgusting look as it was the pink and yellow one, but put it on over his head and adjusted it.
But we need to get back upstairs.
With those words, Silver realized they had broken the rules, and it wasn't even lunchtime yet. Like bad kids who wanted to disobey. Their dad would be so upset, and he didn't want to make him mad. Didn't want to be the kids who were always in trouble. On the tail of that thought came the familiar worry that if they weren't good, Wade might change his mind. He said the adoption process took over a year until it was done. It could still happen. Silver turned to glance up all those stairs, wondering if he could get away with some floating.
We have to get back before our dads realize we left. Hurry!
It will be alright. They'll never even know what we did. Personally, I think it's stupid we have to stay hidden. I hid for 10 years thinking I could never be found out by humans. And you know what happened when I finally did? Life got so much better. We shouldn't be hiding.
We promised our dad we would stay hidden.
Really? Well, I guess they're... Uh-oh.
Both Silver and Shadow stopped as he did.
What's wrong?
The blue hedgehog gazed around the corner of the hallway for a long moment.
I don't know which room we're supposed to go back to.
It had a plant right by it, remember? It's a nice plant, too.
There's no plants anywhere in this hallway.
The three of them looked around wildly, only to see he was right. Lots of other furniture, but not a single plant.
Are you sure about the plant?
Yeah, of course I'm sure. I love plants and I noticed it right away.
He looked around again, trying to figure out how this was happening.
We went down a lot of stairs. Maybe we didn't go to the right floor?
This isn't the right floor?
Good idea.
Sonic said, turning around to zip back towards the staircase as the other two followed him. They climbed more stairs and came out to another hallway.
This looks exactly like the same as the last one. Exactly the same.
Yeah, but there's plants down there, so not the same.
3 different ones by different doors?
Then we try all 3 doors. One of them has to be ours.
That seemed like a good idea, so they headed down the hallway, only to come across another massive problem.
They're all locked. Now what?
We don't even know if this is the right floor. These might not even be the right doors, and we go into someone else's room and get discovered.
Okay. I got this. It's fine. We'll figure it out. Nothing to worry about. We just gotta.
Sonic said, a look of mild panic coming over his face. They heard a ding sound from the end of the hallway, followed by what was those mechanical doors opening and a lot of footsteps. Clearly several humans coming their way. The three then turned towards the sound, horror written across their faces.